The moment Kale stepped onto the alien outpost, he felt a shiver of excitement mixed with unease. The facility towered above him, its curved walls glinting in colors that humans had never seen before. The air hummed softly, carrying a faint scent of minerals and something he could not identify. He was one of the first humans allowed on this planet, here to study advanced alien medicine. The mission had promised discoveries that could change humanity forever, and yet, as he walked through the corridors, Kale could not shake the feeling that he was entering a world that would not entirely welcome him. The alien staff moved gracefully, their tall forms gliding without effort, their skin shimmering like liquid crystal. Kale tried to keep up, his steps awkward in comparison, but he smiled politely, trying to appear confident. The aliens did not speak in words humans could understand. Their language was a complex series of vibrations and gestures. Fortunately, the outpost had translation devices, small implants on his neck that allowed him to understand basic instructions and greetings. Still, some expressions and nuances seemed to float beyond the device's abilities, leaving Kale feeling clumsy and small. He was introduced to the alien nurse who would oversee the medical wing, a being of quiet elegance. She had long, translucent limbs, and her eyes reflected light in shades of silver and blue. When she looked at him, Kale felt as if she could see everything inside him. He forced himself to smile, bowing slightly in respect. She responded with a subtle nod, her movements so precise that they seemed rehearsed, yet natural. Kale had been feeling a slight fever since arriving, a minor infection from the planet's environment, and today she would administer a routine injection to help him recover. He followed her into the medical chamber, a space that pulsed with soft lights and walls that seemed almost alive, shifting in patterns like a living organism. The nurse gestured for him to sit. He obeyed, watching her hands, fascinated by the delicate instruments she held. When she drew the syringe, Kale noticed that the fluid inside glimmered faintly, almost like liquid light. He hesitated for a moment, but the nurse's calm demeanor reassured him. He had studied alien medicine before coming, yet he knew that trusting them fully was still a leap of faith. He sat still as the needle touched his skin, cold but not painful. As the fluid entered his arm, Kale felt a strange warmth spread through his body, like tiny sparks moving along his veins. The nurse leaned close, so close that Kale could feel the subtle vibration of her breath, though it did not carry any sound he could hear. Then she spoke in a voice low and deliberate. "This wasn't for humans," she said. "Don't say a word." Her words sent a shiver down Kale's spine. He blinked, unsure if he had understood correctly. I don't understand," he said, his voice trembling slightly. The nurse's expression did not change. She simply nodded once, then turned and glided out of the chamber, leaving Kale alone. He sat there, staring at the walls, feeling the warmth in his veins intensify. His mind raced. Was this a mistake? Was he in danger? He had heard of experiments on other species, but surely the aliens would not intentionally harm a human. Over the next few hours, Kale noticed small changes. At first, they were subtle. Colors seemed brighter, sounds sharper. He could hear the faint hum of machines even from rooms down the hall. Shadows moved with a clarity he had never noticed before, and he felt almost as if he could sense the presence of every living being around him. At first, he thought he was imagining things. Then, during a routine examination, he reached out to adjust a piece of equipment, and it responded almost before he touched it, as if it anticipated his movements. Kale's curiosity overrode his fear. He began testing his senses in small ways, trying to understand the limits of this new ability. He could hear conversations from farther away, detect subtle changes in the air, and notice details that had escaped him all his life. His mind worked faster, connecting patterns and solving problems that had once taken hours. Every discovery thrilled him and terrified him at the same time. Yet, alongside the exhilaration, there was a growing unease. Sometimes he caught glimpses of memories that were not his own, brief flashes of alien knowledge, strategies, and instincts. They appeared in his mind like half-formed thoughts, fading before he could fully grasp them. He tried to ignore them, telling himself it was just his imagination, but he could not shake the feeling that he had crossed a line, stepping into a realm humans were never meant to enter. Despite the warning, Kale's scientific mind could not resist experimenting. He began observing alien medical devices, understanding their patterns and functions almost instinctively. Where previously he had struggled to comprehend the alien logic behind the machines, now he seemed to understand their purpose as if he had been trained for years. When he applied his newfound knowledge to minor procedures on other humans at the outpost, The results were astonishing. Recovery times improved, and minor ailments healed faster than anyone had expected. The aliens around him began to notice. Some were intrigued, watching Kale from a distance as he moved through the medical wing with unexpected confidence. Others seemed cautious, exchanging silent gestures and glances that Kale could not decipher. He realized that his abilities, while beneficial, might be drawing attention in ways that could be dangerous. One evening, while reviewing patient data, Kale felt a presence behind him. He turned sharply to see the nurse standing there, her expression unreadable. "You are changing," she said simply. "The injection is working differently than expected. You must be careful." "Is it dangerous?" The days passed quickly. Kale adapted to his new abilities, learning to control his senses and impulses. He became more efficient than any human colleague, anticipating problems before they arose. Yet he kept his distance, careful not to reveal the full extent of the changes. He could feel the alien influence inside him, subtle but persistent, a reminder of the nurse's warning. Kale also began to notice how the injection affected his perception of people. He could sense their intentions, their emotions, even when they tried to hide them. It was not perfect. Sometimes he misread cues, but it gave him a perspective he had never had before. He started to see patterns in alien behavior, discovering methods and systems that no human had mapped before. One day, while assisting in a critical procedure, Kale solved a problem that had stumped the alien team for weeks. The device they were using was misaligned, and Kale's intuition guided him to adjust it in a way the aliens had never considered. The machine responded perfectly, and the patient recovered faster than expected. The aliens murmured among themselves, clearly impressed. Kale felt a surge of pride, tempered by the knowledge that this was only the beginning of what the injection had unleashed. That night, Kale lay in his quarters, staring at the strange alien sky outside his window. Stars glimmered in unfamiliar patterns, and he felt both exhilarated and isolated. He thought about the nurse's words again. "Don't say a word." He realized he could never fully explain what had happened to anyone else. If he spoke, if he revealed the nature of the injection, it could bring danger to himself and to humanity. And yet, despite the fear, Kale felt a spark of something else: hope. He could feel the potential inside him, the promise of what humans could achieve when combined with knowledge and intuition. The injection had given him abilities, yes, but it had also revealed a deeper truth. Humanity was capable of far more than the aliens realized. As he drifted to sleep, Kale felt the warmth of the injection still in his veins. It was not a warning anymore, it was a challenge. A challenge to remain human while embracing the extraordinary, to navigate a world that had always been alien, and to prove that humans could rise to any occasion. Tomorrow, he knew, would bring new tests, new discoveries, and new dangers. But Kale no longer feared them. He had become something more, something that could change the course of human history. And deep down, he knew that this was only the beginning. The morning sun filtered through the alien outpost's translucent walls, painting the corridors in soft shades of silver and blue. Kale woke with a renewed sense of energy. The injection's effects were still fresh, and he felt sharper than ever, as if his body and mind had been recalibrated overnight. Small tests confirmed it. His senses were precise, his reactions fast, and his understanding of alien systems far beyond what a normal human could achieve. Despite the excitement, Kale knew he had to be careful. The nurse's words echoed in his mind. "Don't say a word." He could not tell anyone about what had happened. Even his fellow humans at the outpost would not comprehend the full truth, and the aliens might see him as a threat if they learned he had been affected differently than planned. He had to learn to navigate this new world quietly, using his abilities wisely. Kale spent the morning moving through the medical wing, observing how the aliens treated their patients. With his enhanced perception, he could detect even the smallest errors in technique or timing. He noticed that certain alien instruments were not aligned perfectly and that minor adjustments could improve efficiency. Normally, such changes would go unnoticed, but Kale saw them instantly. During a routine check, an injured alien approached Kale with a trembling limb. The creature's skin flickered between colors, a sign of distress. Kale's mind raced as he analyzed the injury. He realized that if he applied pressure at just the right angle, the wound would heal much faster than with the standard procedure. He carefully demonstrated the adjustment, watching as the alien's limb responded almost immediately. The attending aliens paused and exchanged subtle gestures. Kale could sense their surprise. They had seen their own species heal quickly under their methods, but never so quickly under a human's guidance. Kale's heart raced. He knew he was walking a fine line, helpful enough to earn trust, careful enough not to attract suspicion. As the day progressed, Kale continued to explore the limits of his new abilities. He moved through the outpost, testing his perception in small ways. He could hear whispers from rooms far away, detect faint energy signatures from medical machines, and notice subtle shifts in alien body language. Sometimes he glimpsed flashes of alien thought patterns, instinctive calculations that no human brain could normally comprehend. At first, these flashes disoriented him, but gradually he learned to focus and interpret them, turning potential confusion into insight. By mid-afternoon, Kale's curiosity led him to the alien archives, a vast hall filled with floating data streams and complex devices. Normally, humans had limited access, as the data was encoded in ways alien minds processed naturally. Kale approached a console, expecting difficulty. Instead, he found that he could intuitively manipulate the data. Screens rearranged themselves as he thought, information became clear and readable, and patterns emerged that had been hidden from other humans. As he worked, Kale noticed a figure observing him from the edge of the room, the nurse. She had returned silently, her eyes reflecting both caution and approval. Kale felt a mixture of relief and tension. "I didn't tell anyone," he said softly. "I'm careful." Kale understood. He must not only control his abilities but also maintain his humanity. The injection had given him power, but it was a double-edged sword. If he allowed alien instincts or logic to dominate, he could lose the very qualities that made him human: curiosity, empathy, and moral judgment. In the following days, Kale began to experiment more boldly. He tested alien medical devices in ways no one had attempted before, applying his intuition and enhanced perception. Small successes turned into larger ones. Patients healed faster, machines functioned more efficiently, and Kale's reputation quietly grew among the outpost staff. Some humans whispered about his extraordinary talent, while aliens observed silently, trying to understand how a human could achieve results they had considered impossible. Yet, Kale's transformation was not without complications. He began to experience moments of disorientation, where alien instincts threatened to override his human reasoning. During one experiment, he caught himself making decisions based purely on efficiency, without considering ethical implications. The nurse's warning returned to his mind, grounding him. He paused, breathed deeply, and consciously returned to human thought, reminding himself that strength without conscience was dangerous. One evening, Kale discovered a small anomaly in the outpost's energy distribution system. A minor imbalance, barely noticeable, threatened to destabilize several medical devices. Humans had failed to detect it for weeks, but Kale's enhanced senses noticed it instantly. He carefully recalibrated the system, preventing what could have been a serious failure. The attending aliens noticed his actions, nodding subtly in acknowledgement. Some, Kale realized, were beginning to see humans not as fragile creatures but as adaptable problem solvers. Word of Kale's accomplishments began to spread through the outpost. Aliens approached him cautiously, offering complex equipment and rare data for study. He welcomed the challenge, learning quickly and applying his abilities creatively. For the first time, he felt a sense of belonging, though tempered by the knowledge that he was fundamentally different now. He was human, but altered, walking a path no other human had walked before. Late one night, Kale reflected on the events that had brought him here. The nurse's cryptic warning, the injection, the strange flashes of alien thought, they were all pieces of a puzzle he had yet to fully understand. He realized that the injection was not merely a medical tool. It was a doorway, a test, perhaps even a form of communication. He had crossed into uncharted territory, and the consequences were uncertain. Despite the uncertainty, Kale felt a growing determination. He understood that his abilities could serve a greater purpose. Not for personal gain, not for alien approval, but for humanity itself. If humans could learn to combine intuition, morality, and creativity with such enhancements, they could solve problems no one else could. They could reach stars, heal worlds, and forge alliances beyond imagination. The following days were filled with subtle discoveries. Kale noticed patterns in alien behavior, predicting actions and decisions before they occurred. He found ways to optimize medical procedures, reducing errors and accelerating recovery. Even mundane tasks became opportunities to test his abilities, from calibrating machinery to analyzing data streams. Each success built confidence, yet he remained cautious, knowing that exposure could provoke fear or hostility. One afternoon, a fellow human, Dr. Lyra, approached him with a problem. A patient's condition was deteriorating despite standard treatment. Kale studied the data and, using his enhanced perception, discovered a subtle biochemical imbalance that no human or alien had noticed. He adjusted the treatment, monitoring the patient closely. Within hours, improvement was evident. Dr. Lyra stared in amazement, unable to comprehend how Kale had solved the problem. How did you?" she began. Kale smiled faintly, shaking his head. "Just intuition," he said. It was the truth, in a sense. His human mind, amplified but guided by curiosity and reasoning, had found a solution. That night, Kale felt a mixture of pride and apprehension. His abilities were growing, but so were the risks. He knew that others, humans and aliens alike, might begin to view him as something extraordinary, even dangerous. The nurse's warning echoed once more. Power without restraint could lead to disaster. He vowed to remain careful, to use his abilities wisely, and to ensure that his humanity remained intact. Kale also began to experiment with subtle communication with the nurse. She never spoke directly, but through gestures and presence she guided him, offering insights without words. Kale learned to interpret her signals, understanding when to push forward and when to retreat. Their silent partnership became a source of strength, helping him navigate a world that was both alien and familiar. Over the weeks, Kale's reputation grew quietly. Aliens began to recognize that humans could think in ways they could not, combining logic, creativity, and moral reasoning. Some approached him with respect, others with curiosity, and a few with caution. Kale realized that he was forging a new path for humans, not by overpowering aliens, but by demonstrating what humanity could achieve when combined with opportunity and insight. Yet, Kale never forgot the injection, nor the nurse's words. He understood that his abilities were not permanent, and that each day carried the risk of unforeseen consequences. He remained vigilant, testing his limits while respecting boundaries. Each success was measured, each action deliberate. Humanity, he realized, was not just about power, it was about responsibility, courage, and wisdom. By the end of Part 2, Kale had transformed from a curious scientist into something more, a human capable of extraordinary feats, yet grounded by conscience and morality. He had glimpsed the potential of humanity, amplified but not replaced, and he knew that the path ahead would be filled with challenges, discoveries, and opportunities to prove that humans could rise above limits, not by brute force, but by intelligence, creativity, and heart. The injection had opened a door, but Kale was the one who would decide how far to walk through it. And as he looked out at the alien sky, shimmering with unfamiliar constellations, he felt a sense of purpose unlike anything he had ever known. The galaxy was vast, full of mysteries, and humanity, through him, was ready to meet them. Kale woke to the soft hum of the outpost, feeling the familiar warmth of the injection still coursing through his veins. The world seemed sharper than ever. Colors, sounds, even the movement of air around him were more distinct, almost alive. He had learned to control his new abilities, balancing alien instincts with human thought, and now he could navigate the outpost with an ease that surprised even him. The day began like any other, with routine medical rounds and data collection, but Kale sensed something unusual. There was a tension in the corridors, a subtle shift in the alien's behavior. Whispers flickered in his mind as he moved through the halls, hesitant, cautious, curious. He realized that his enhancements allowed him to perceive not just physical details, but emotional and cognitive patterns as well. The aliens were watching him more closely than before, though they maintained the appearance of normalcy. During a checkup in the medical wing, Kale noticed a minor irregularity in a patient's vital signs, so slight that others might not have noticed. His instincts guided him to intervene, adjusting the equipment with precise movements. The patient's condition improved instantly. The attending aliens observed silently, exchanging gestures and subtle signals that Kale now understood as a mix of surprise and respect. His presence was beginning to shift the outpost's dynamics. Later, Kale entered the archives, drawn by a need to understand more about the injection and its origins. The floating data streams shimmered as he approached, and his enhanced perception allowed him to read patterns that were invisible to both human and alien eyes. As he sifted through the records, he discovered references to a program designed to enhance intelligence and perception across species, but humans had never been included. His own experience was an anomaly, a test that had been administered without full disclosure. The realization sent a thrill and a warning through him. He had been chosen, in a sense, though not intentionally, for an experiment that carried both opportunity and risk. Cale understood that others might view him as a threat, an irregularity that needed observation or containment. The nurse's warning echoed in his mind. Don't say a word. He would have to proceed carefully, using his abilities to gather information while avoiding suspicion. As he studied, he detected a subtle presence behind him, the nurse. She did not speak, but her eyes conveyed a message. Be cautious, continue learning, but remain human. Cale nodded subtly, acknowledging her guidance. The silent communication between them had become a way to navigate the complexities of the outpost. The following days were filled with both discovery and challenge. Cale tested his enhanced perception in new ways, observing alien procedures and detecting inefficiencies that no one else could see. He noticed patterns in alien behavior, how they prioritized tasks, how they responded to stress, how their bodies and minds adjusted to environmental changes. With careful application of this knowledge, he was able to optimize procedures and anticipate outcomes with remarkable accuracy. Cale's abilities, however, were not purely analytical. He began to experience flashes of alien thought, instinctive problem-solving that was not his own. At first, these flashes were disorienting, filling his mind with unfamiliar perspectives and solutions. He learned to control them, integrating the insights into his human reasoning without losing his sense of self. This delicate balance became a daily exercise, one that required focus, restraint, and self-awareness. During a complex medical procedure, Cale encountered a challenge that tested both his abilities and judgment. A patient's condition deteriorated rapidly, and the standard protocols were failing. Cale's instincts guided him to a solution that combined alien methodology with human intuition. He adjusted the equipment, recalibrated the dosage, and monitored the patient closely. Slowly, the condition stabilized. The attending aliens observed in silence, their expressions unreadable, yet Cale sensed approval. Word of Cale's success spread quietly through the outpost. Aliens approached him with complex devices and encrypted data, curious to see how a human could solve problems they considered impossible. Cale welcomed the challenge, using his abilities to interpret and manipulate alien systems in ways that no one had attempted before. Each success built confidence, but also drew attention. He realized that he was no longer just a participant in the outpost's daily life. He was becoming a figure of interest, a human anomaly that could not be ignored. One evening, Cale noticed unusual activity in a restricted area of the outpost. Alien guards moved with heightened alertness, their sensors scanning for anomalies. His instincts warned him that something significant was happening. Using his enhanced perception, Cale observed from a distance, piecing together the purpose of their actions. He discovered that the injection he had received was part of a classified program, one that aimed to create hybrid intelligence across species. Humans had not been intended to participate, making Cale a unique anomaly in the eyes of the aliens. The revelation was both exhilarating and dangerous. Cale realized that he held knowledge that could shift the balance of trust and power at the outpost. He also understood that his abilities, while extraordinary, made him a target for scrutiny. He needed to act carefully, using intelligence and discretion rather than speed and power alone. Over the next few days, Cale experimented with applying his abilities in strategic ways. He observed alien meetings, noting subtle signals that indicated decision-making processes. He analyzed data streams to predict resource allocation and system adjustments. He assisted human colleagues, guiding them to solutions that seemed intuitive but were enhanced by his perception. Each action demonstrated the potential of human intelligence augmented by alien technology, yet carefully framed to avoid suspicion. Cale also began to explore ethical and moral dimensions of his abilities. He realized that enhanced perception could be misused, manipulating outcomes, influencing decisions, or gaining unfair advantage. He consciously restrained himself, applying his skills to solve problems and help others, rather than asserting control. This moral discipline became a cornerstone of his identity, a way to ensure that his humanity remained intact despite the alien enhancements. One day, while assisting in a particularly complex procedure, Cale was approached by a group of alien researchers. Their expressions were neutral, yet Cale sensed curiosity and caution. They presented him with a device that had confounded their best minds, a diagnostic tool that no alien had been able to calibrate correctly. Kale studied it, his mind integrating alien patterns with human logic. Within minutes, he identified the flaw and suggested adjustments. The device functioned flawlessly. The aliens exchanged silent signals, clearly impressed, yet still cautious. The nurse appeared silently at the edge of the room, observing Kale's success. She made a subtle gesture of acknowledgement, and Kale understood. He was on the right path, but vigilance remained essential. His abilities were remarkable, but they could not replace careful thought, empathy, or the ethical foundation that defined him as human. As days turned into weeks, Kale continued to explore the limits of his new abilities. He discovered ways to optimize medical procedures, anticipate technical failures, and predict outcomes with remarkable accuracy. Each success demonstrated the potential of combining human creativity and intuition with alien knowledge. Yet, he remained mindful of the risks. Exposure could provoke fear, envy, or hostility from both humans and aliens. During a quiet moment, Kale reflected on the journey so far. The injection had unlocked extraordinary potential, but it was his human qualities, curiosity, empathy, morality, and reasoning, that allowed him to use it wisely. He realized that true strength was not in alien enhancements alone, but in the combination of human ingenuity and opportunity. The nurse's warning had guided him, and he understood now that restraint, observation, and careful decision-making were as important as his abilities. A week later, Kale encountered a situation that tested his judgment and creativity in unexpected ways. A critical system in the outpost began to fail, threatening both equipment and patience. Alien protocols provided limited solutions, but Kale's intuition suggested a novel approach, combining human reasoning with enhanced perception. He acted quickly, adjusting parameters and recalibrating systems. Within hours, the crisis was averted. The attending aliens observed silently, clearly impressed by the humans' ability to think beyond standard procedures. The success did not go unnoticed. Senior alien researchers began to approach Kale with questions, seeking insights into how he had solved problems they considered impossible. Kale maintained discretion, sharing only what was necessary while continuing to explore possibilities in secret. He understood that knowledge was power, and power required careful stewardship. Despite his growing reputation, Kale remained grounded. He continued to test the limits of the injection in small, controlled ways, always mindful of the potential risks. He explored patterns in alien behavior, anticipated system adjustments, and refined his ability to interpret alien thought processes. Each day brought new insights, new challenges, and new opportunities to prove that human intelligence, guided by ethics and creativity, could rival even advanced alien cognition. One evening, Kale returned to his quarters, exhausted but exhilarated. He thought about the path that had brought him here, the injection, the nurse's warning, the strange flashes of alien thought. He realized that he had become more than a human scientist. He was a bridge between species, a living example of what humanity could achieve when curiosity, intelligence, and moral reasoning were amplified. Kale's reflection was interrupted by a soft sound outside his quarters. The nurse appeared once again, silent and graceful. She made a gesture that conveyed both approval and caution. Kale understood immediately. The journey was far from over and new challenges awaited. His abilities were extraordinary, but they would be tested, not just by technical problems, but by the reactions of those around him. As he lay down to rest, Kale felt a sense of determination unlike anything he had known. The injection had opened a door, yes, but he was the one who would decide how far to walk through it. The galaxy was vast, full of mysteries, and humanity, through him, was beginning to show its potential. The nurse's warning remained in his mind, a reminder that power without restraint was dangerous. Yet Kale felt ready. He would face the coming challenges with intelligence, creativity, and heart, proving that humans could rise above limits, not through force alone, but through the combination of knowledge, intuition, and morality. The outpost was quiet in the early morning, but Kale sensed a tension that had been building for days. The aliens' subtle glances, the whispers he could hear only through his enhanced perception, and the occasional hesitation in routine procedures all pointed to something he had not yet understood. The injection had given him extraordinary abilities, but it had also made him hyper-aware of the currents of suspicion and curiosity around him. Today, he realized, would test the limits of what he could accomplish. Kale began his day by reviewing patient data and monitoring the medical wing. He noticed a pattern he had not seen before. A small group of aliens was conducting experiments in secret, experiments that seemed to involve hybridization of intelligence and physiology. The protocols were complex, the devices unfamiliar, yet Kale could sense the purpose behind each motion, each adjustment. It was clear that the injection he had received was not a simple medical treatment, but part of a broader, carefully controlled program, one in which humans had never been included. He paused, thinking of the nurse's warning. "Don't say a word." She had trusted him with knowledge without explanation, relying on his judgment. Kale realized that his next steps had to be precise. Any miscalculation could provoke fear or worse, hostility. He moved quietly through the corridors, observing the experiments from a distance. Using his enhanced perception, he understood the sequence of operations, the purpose behind each adjustment, and the risks involved. During one session, a minor error occurred in the alien experiments. A device overheated slightly, and the team hesitated, unsure how to respond. Kale's instincts guided him. He approached the equipment, careful to remain unseen, and adjusted the calibration with precise movements. The system stabilized immediately. The aliens did not notice his intervention directly, but he could sense their confusion and curiosity. Someone had solved a problem they could not, and though the human had not revealed himself, the balance of power was subtly shifting. As the days progressed, Kale began to interact more strategically with the alien staff. He offered small, unassuming suggestions, demonstrating that humans could contribute in ways that complemented alien knowledge rather than competing with it. He noticed that some aliens were becoming more receptive, approaching him for insights and advice. Others remained cautious, exchanging subtle signals of concern or suspicion. Kale understood that he was entering a delicate balance of trust and observation, and he had to maintain both skill and humility. Kale also explored the extent of his enhanced abilities. His senses could detect minute fluctuations in energy fields, subtle changes in alien physiology, and even hidden communications between machines. He used these abilities to optimize medical procedures, improve the efficiency of the outpost systems, and anticipate potential failures before they occurred. Each success strengthened his confidence, but he remained aware that exposure could bring unintended consequences. One afternoon, Kale discovered an anomaly in the outpost's energy grid. A minor imbalance threatened to destabilize several key systems, including life support and medical equipment. Using his enhanced perception, Kale traced the problem to a previously undetected flaw in the alien design. He corrected it quickly, stabilizing the system. The attending aliens noticed the change and exchanged subtle signals. Kale could feel their admiration, tinged with caution. They were beginning to recognize the potential of human ingenuity, but they did not fully understand the source of his insight. Later that day, the nurse appeared silently at the edge of the observation deck. Her presence was calm, but her eyes conveyed urgency. Kale approached her cautiously. She made a series of gestures, which he interpreted as a warning. The experiments were intensifying, and some alien factions were becoming concerned about anomalies in the outpost. Kale realized that his abilities might be drawing attention in ways that could be dangerous. He nodded, acknowledging her guidance, and resolved to act with care. Kale's opportunity to demonstrate human ingenuity came sooner than expected. During a routine procedure, a patient's condition deteriorated rapidly. Standard protocols offered no solution, and the attending aliens were uncertain how to proceed. Kale's instincts guided him to a novel approach, combining human intuition with enhanced perception of alien systems. He adjusted equipment, recalibrated the treatment, and monitored the patient carefully. Slowly, the condition stabilized. The attending aliens exchanged subtle signals of approval, though Kale sensed that some remained wary of the human's abilities. Word of Kale's success spread quickly. Aliens approached him with more complex devices and encrypted data, testing both his skill and judgment. Kale welcomed the challenge, understanding that each opportunity allowed him to demonstrate the potential of humanity when combined with intelligence, creativity, and moral reasoning. Yet, he remained cautious, aware that overexposure could provoke fear or hostility. One evening, Kale discovered an encrypted transmission in the archives. Using his abilities, he decoded the message, revealing that the injection program was part of a larger experiment spanning multiple alien colonies. The goal was to create hybrid intelligence capable of problem-solving across species boundaries. Humans had never been part of the program, making Kale an anomaly. He realized that some factions might view him as a threat or a valuable asset. The implications were profound. He could not reveal this knowledge, but he could use it to anticipate the actions of the aliens and prepare accordingly. As Kale processed this information, he sensed the nurse observing him. She did not speak, but her eyes conveyed both concern and approval. Kale understood that he had reached a turning point. His abilities had grown beyond simple perception. He could now interpret alien intentions, predict outcomes, and influence events subtly without overt intervention. Yet, the responsibility weighed heavily on him. One misstep could endanger not only himself but the humans and aliens around him. In the days that followed, Kale applied his abilities to improve outpost operations and human-alien collaboration. He anticipated equipment failures, optimized medical treatments, and identified inefficiencies in alien procedures. His interventions were subtle but effective, earning him quiet respect from some factions while drawing cautious attention from others. He understood that he was not simply a participant. He was shaping the outpost's future, balancing human ingenuity with alien knowledge. Kale also began to explore the ethical dimensions of his abilities more deeply. He realized that enhanced perception could be misused to manipulate outcomes, exploit knowledge, or gain unfair advantage. He made a conscious decision to apply his skills for constructive purposes, assisting others and solving problems rather than asserting dominance. This moral discipline became central to his identity, reinforcing his humanity while allowing him to harness the power of the injection. One day, Kale faced a challenge that tested both his abilities and his judgment. A critical system in the outpost malfunctioned, threatening life support and essential research. Alien engineers were unable to identify the cause, and the situation became urgent. Kale analyzed the system, sensing fluctuations invisible to others. He identified a subtle misalignment and corrected it with precise adjustments. The system stabilized, and the attending aliens observed with a mixture of relief and curiosity. Kale sensed that some were beginning to recognize humans not as fragile creatures, but as capable and creative problem solvers. The nurse appeared once again, silent and graceful. She made a series of gestures that Kale interpreted as guidance. Continue your work, maintain caution, and remember that your humanity is your greatest strength. Kale nodded, understanding that his journey was far from over. The injection had given him extraordinary abilities, but it was his choices, judgment, and moral compass that defined his true potential. Over the next week, Kale continued to refine his skills, testing the limits of his enhanced perception while remaining discreet. He studied alien communication patterns, predicted procedural outcomes, and assisted humans in ways that improved efficiency and safety. Each success reinforced his belief that humanity, guided by intelligence and ethical reasoning, could accomplish extraordinary feats, even in a world dominated by advanced alien species. Kale also began to notice subtle tensions within the alien factions. Some were impressed by his abilities, while others were suspicious of his independence and unpredictability. He realized that his presence was reshaping perceptions of humanity within the outpost. Humans were no longer seen as weak or limited. They were capable of insight, creativity, and ethical decision-making that even advanced aliens could not fully replicate. One evening, Kale reflected on his progress. The injection had transformed him, enhancing his perception and cognition, but it had also revealed the deeper truth of human potential. Strength, he realized, was not measured by raw ability alone, but by the combination of intelligence, creativity, and moral judgment. The nurse's warning had guided him to maintain this balance, ensuring that his powers were used responsibly. The following day, Kale faced a new test. A complex device critical to the outpost's medical research began to fail, endangering both human and alien lives. Kale analyzed the system, integrating his human intuition with enhanced perception of alien processes. He identified a flaw that had eluded both species and corrected it with precision. The system stabilized, and the attending aliens observed in silence, clearly impressed by the human's ingenuity. Kale understood that he was no longer simply a participant in the outpost. He was a bridge between species, a demonstration of what humans could achieve when curiosity, intelligence, and morality were combined. Yet he remained vigilant, knowing that exposure could provoke envy, suspicion, or hostility. Each action required careful judgment, balancing the extraordinary with the ethical. As night fell, Kale looked out at the alien sky, shimmering with unfamiliar constellations. The outpost had become a place of discovery, challenge, and subtle influence. He realized that his abilities were not just tools, they were opportunities to demonstrate the potential of humanity. The injection had opened a door, but Kale's choices, guided by conscience and creativity, would determine how far he walked through it. The nurse's warning echoed once more in his mind. "Don't say a word." Kale smiled faintly, understanding its true meaning. It was not a restriction, but a reminder. Power alone was not enough. Humanity's strength lay in wisdom, judgment, and moral responsibility, and in that knowledge, Kale felt a growing sense of purpose. The galaxy was vast, full of mysteries and challenges, and humans, through him, were beginning to show what they could achieve. The alien sky was alive with color as Kale stepped out onto the observation deck. The suns of the planet reflected across the curving walls of the outpost, casting long, shifting shadows. Everything seemed sharper, brighter, and yet heavier with the weight of expectation. Kale had grown accustomed to the extraordinary awareness the injection had granted him, but today, he knew, would bring challenges unlike any he had faced before. Rumors of his abilities had reached multiple factions within the outpost. Some were supportive, intrigued by the possibilities of human ingenuity enhanced by the alien program. Others were cautious, even wary, unsure if Kale's presence threatened their authority or the carefully controlled systems they had maintained for generations. Kale could sense their concern, almost like a vibration in the air, subtle but unmistakable. His enhanced perception allowed him to navigate these social currents with precision, yet he knew that any mistake could have serious consequences. The day began with a routine medical review, but it quickly escalated. An alien faction had brought in a patient with a rare and complicated condition, one that no alien or human had been able to treat successfully. The attending aliens followed their standard protocols, which Kale could see were insufficient. He studied the patient carefully, his senses detecting patterns and anomalies invisible to others. Kale realized that solving this case would require more than observation. It would require creativity, judgment, and the full use of his enhanced abilities. He approached the team cautiously, offering subtle suggestions that guided them to adjust the equipment and treatment protocols. He did not take over, but his insights reshaped their approach. Slowly, methodically, the patient's condition stabilized. The attending aliens observed in silence, exchanging signals of surprise and admiration. Some were impressed, others wary, but all recognized the human's unique contribution. After the procedure, Kale retreated to a quiet corner of the observation deck. He reflected on how far he had come since the injection, from a curious human scientist to someone capable of influencing outcomes that had eluded even the most experienced aliens. The nurse appeared silently beside him, her presence calming and grounding. She made gestures that Kale understood intuitively. This was a turning point, a moment where his abilities could shape not just immediate outcomes, but the perception of humanity itself. Kale realized that the injection had been more than a gift, it was a test. He had been given abilities that could elevate him above ordinary humans, but the true measure was not in speed, precision, or enhanced perception alone. It was in judgment, creativity, and morality. The nurse's warning, "Don't say a word," was not a restriction, it was guidance. Humans had the potential to rise above limits, but only if they remained true to their nature. The following days were intense. Kale faced challenges that tested his abilities, his judgment, and his moral compass. A critical system in the outpost began to fail, threatening both medical research and daily life support. Alien engineers struggled to diagnose the issue. Kale moved carefully, observing subtle energy fluctuations, analyzing patterns, and predicting outcomes. He guided the repair with precision, stabilizing the system before any damage could occur. The aliens watched him work, some openly impressed, others exchanging gestures that Kale interpreted as cautious respect. During this period, Kale also worked to help his fellow humans adapt to the outpost environment. Using his insights, he improved procedures, optimized equipment, and guided colleagues to solutions they would not have found on their own. He recognized that humanity's greatest strength was not merely in the injection's enhancements, but in creativity, problem-solving, and ethical reasoning. Each success reinforced the idea that humans could thrive even in a world dominated by more advanced species. One day, Kale discovered that some factions within the outpost were planning to restrict his access to certain areas and limit human participation in the research program. The aliens feared that his abilities might destabilize their control. Kale realized that he needed to act decisively, not through force, but by demonstrating the value of human insight. He approached the Council of Alien Leaders with careful, methodical reasoning, showing examples of successful interventions and improvements he had guided. He emphasized that humans were capable of collaboration and innovation, not rebellion. The Council listened carefully. Some were skeptical, others intrigued. Kale did not argue, he demonstrated. Over the course of several sessions, he guided the Council through complex problems, revealing solutions that only a human mind, augmented but guided by moral reasoning, could produce. Slowly, the leaders' attitudes shifted. They began to recognize humans not as fragile creatures, but as capable partners in the outpost's work. Kale had achieved what brute force or intimidation could never accomplish: respect earned through competence, creativity, and integrity. Despite these successes, Kale remained vigilant. He understood that his abilities, while powerful, were still a source of vulnerability. Alien factions could react unpredictably, and any misstep might provoke hostility. He continued to refine his perception, balancing intuition with careful analysis. He maintained ethical discipline, ensuring that his enhanced abilities served constructive purposes rather than manipulation or control. During one particularly challenging moment, a complex medical device critical to research malfunctioned. Alien engineers were unable to repair it, and the outpost's operations risked severe disruption. Kale analyzed the device, detecting subtle energy patterns and mechanical inconsistencies invisible to others. Using his intuition and enhanced perception, he guided the repair process, explaining adjustments in a way that respected alien protocols while ensuring success. The device resumed operation flawlessly. The attending aliens exchanged quiet signals of astonishment. Kale could sense that some now regarded humans as capable equals rather than limited observers. The nurse appeared once more, silent and graceful, observing Kale's success. She made gestures that Kale interpreted as both encouragement and warning. The path ahead would be challenging, and while humans were gaining recognition, he must continue to act with wisdom and restraint. Kale nodded, understanding that his journey was far from over, but also that he had reached a milestone. Humanity was no longer seen as fragile. It was becoming respected, capable, and valued. Kale also reflected on his personal growth. The injection had unlocked abilities he could never have imagined, but it was his human qualities, creativity, empathy, judgment, that allowed him to use them effectively. He realized that true power was not in the abilities themselves, but in the choices one made while wielding them. This understanding became the foundation of his approach: enhance but do not dominate, guide but do not control, solve but remain human. The culmination of his efforts came when a rare and dangerous medical crisis struck the outpost. A group of patients developed a condition that had no known treatment, threatening both human and alien lives. The attending aliens were unsure how to proceed. Kale studied the symptoms, analyzed patterns, and integrated his knowledge of alien systems with human problem-solving. He proposed a novel solution, combining treatment protocols from both species in a way no one had considered. The procedure was complex and required careful timing and precision. Kale guided the team through each step, monitoring responses and adjusting in real time. Slowly, the patients stabilized. The attending aliens watched in astonishment as recovery progressed far beyond expectations. Kale felt a quiet pride, tempered by humility. He had demonstrated not just enhanced abilities, but the potential of humanity to solve problems through creativity, judgment, and collaboration. In the aftermath, the Alien Council convened to discuss the implications of Kale's success. They acknowledged the value of human insight, recognizing that humans brought a unique perspective that complemented their own abilities. Kale realized that the injection had not made him superior. It had revealed the potential inherent in all humans when combined with opportunity, curiosity, and moral reasoning. The nurse approached Kale privately. She made gestures expressing approval, conveying that he had passed a test she had never fully explained. Her eyes shimmered with understanding. Kale had balanced enhanced perception with human judgment, proving that humans could achieve extraordinary feats without losing themselves. Kale nodded, understanding that this moment represented not just personal success, but a milestone for humanity as a whole. In the following days, Kale continued to guide the outpost, sharing insights in subtle ways that demonstrated human capability without arrogance. He trained human colleagues to recognize patterns, anticipate problems, and apply creativity alongside discipline. Slowly, the perception of humans shifted throughout the outpost. Aliens began to see them not as fragile or limited, but as intelligent, creative, and morally capable partners. Kale had become a bridge between species, a living example of what humanity could achieve when intellect and integrity were combined. As Kale stood once more on the observation deck, looking out at the shimmering alien sky, he reflected on the journey that had brought him here. The injection had been extraordinary, but it was his choices, judgment, and human qualities that had made the difference. The nurse's warning, "Don't say a word," now carried deeper meaning. Power alone was meaningless without restraint, morality, and purpose. Kale realized that the galaxy was vast, full of mysteries and challenges, but humanity was ready. Not because of alien enhancements alone, but because humans were capable of innovation, creativity, and ethical decision-making. The outpost had become a place where humans could contribute meaningfully, and Kale had proven that even a single human could influence outcomes beyond expectation. As night fell, the twin suns dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the outpost. Kale felt a sense of accomplishment, tempered by humility and responsibility. He had faced tests, navigated uncertainty, and demonstrated the potential of humanity in a world that had once considered humans limited. The injection had been the catalyst, but it was human qualities that had truly transformed the situation. Kale knew the journey was far from over. Challenges awaited, mysteries to solve, and opportunities to demonstrate human ingenuity. Yet he felt ready. The galaxy was vast, the future uncertain, but humanity, through him, had shown what it could achieve when intellect, creativity, and morality worked together. With a quiet smile, Kale stepped back into the outpost, prepared to continue the work that would shape the perception of humans across alien worlds. He had crossed a threshold, not just in ability, but in understanding. Humanity had proven itself capable, adaptable, and valuable, and Kale knew that this was only the beginning of a new chapter. The injection had opened the door, but it was human choice, courage, and ingenuity that would determine the future. Kale's heart swelled with pride and purpose. He had faced the extraordinary, balanced power with conscience and proven that humans could rise to challenges beyond expectation. The galaxy had witnessed the potential of humanity, and Kale knew that the story of humans, capable and resilient, was just beginning.